Hello everyone and welcome to my Y&R Insider 24 update channel. Kyle returns to Audra after Claire chooses her path. According to the Young and the Restless spoilers, Hayley Erin's Claire Newman is upset. Her attempt to flee Kyle Abbott, Michael Mealer, was ineffective in conveying the message. He flew to Los Angeles, California, instead, to keep an eye on her. Kyle has something Holden Novak, Nathan Owens, is offering. He embodies the positive qualities that Claire observed in Kyle when they first met and turned their friendship into a romantic one. Kyle is concerned that Holden is a few steps away from becoming Claire's replacement. With no predetermined reconciliation, her decision to break up with Kyle leaves him with an unthinkable option that might come true. Holden Novak suspected danger. Holden had to be aware that it was risky to take Claire to the bar where he used to go with Zuleika Silver's Audra Charles. As it turned out, Sienna Bacall, played by Tamara Braun, showed up at the table where they were seated and brought up uncomfortable topics. Claire didn't seem to be bothered by anything Sienna said, including what she said about Audra, whom Sienna jokingly called Audrey. However, that conversation did not go over well with Holden. He wants to show that he is a clean person who can stand in for Kyle's dirty manipulation. Because she hasn't yet developed the same level of feelings for Holden as he does for her, Claire probably wasn't bothered. Audra Charles is rightfully alone. Audra, like Kyle, has no control over her actions. One reason they clashed while working for Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, at Glissard is that they share this characteristic. Similar to how Holden has fallen for Claire, Audra fell for Kyle. Kyle assumed Audra shared his view that their brief connection was not about love. He was mistaken. Audra is in love with Kyle. She liked Nate Hastings, Sean Dominic, and it's possible that she was falling in love with him. However, she first fell in love with Kyle, and that is what has driven her vengeful behavior after he turned her down multiple times. Kyle Abbott descends in the absence of his most recent lover. At first, going back to Audra would be terrible. Their mutually volatile natures make them incompatible. Claire felt rushed after Summer Newman, played by Alison Lanny. Along with Kyle, Lanny's excellent portrayal of that character provided ample plot room. However, it was decided to combine the roles played by Mealer and Erin. However, perhaps their hearts will expand and their perspectives will shift if they are sincere with one another. However, in order to move on to the next location, connected characters will exert a lot of pressure. Smooth dealings are not the foundation of great soap. The screen captures viewers' hearts and minds with its intensity, drama, and wild fluctuations. Combining Kyle and Audra might be explosive. It would be worth watching to see how long they would last. Everything related to the Young and the Restless can be found on this website, which is a leading resource. News and spoilers for Y&R will be posted here frequently. Kyle returns to Audra after Claire chooses her path. Analysis of the Young and the Restless, October 2025. The Young and the Restless has always thrived in situations where love, loyalty, and legacy meet. Another turning point in Genoa City's ongoing tapestry of passion, betrayal, and second chances occurs in Monday's episode. Claire chooses her path and Kyle turns back to Audra. For Souls, Claire Newman, Kyle Abbott, Holden Novak, and Audra Charles are at the center of the storm, each navigating the perilous terrain of love while their entwined fates threaten to explode. The struggle for independence of Claire Newman. Hayley Erin's Claire Newman has spent much of her life trying to redefine herself in order to escape the stigma that once defined her and the shadows cast by her family's sins. Claire thought that moving to Los Angeles might give her a chance to breathe after her traumatic upbringing and the subsequent story of redemption. She desired clarity, to discover who she was outside of Genoa City's watchful eyes, the Newman dynasty, and Kyle Abbott's emotional pull. However, Kyle's determination to accompany her to California demonstrated that it is easier said than done to separate. He came because he couldn't let go, not for business. Another man trying to control Claire's narrative under the guise of love felt like this act was intrusive to her. But deep down, Kyle's persistence caused her to feel a complicated mix of rage, longing, and fear of being vulnerable. The peace that Claire thought she would never experience is represented by her time with Holden Novak, portrayed by Nathan Owens. Holden doesn't have the Newman baggage or the Abbott pride. In contrast to Kyle, who is often impulsive, he is a grounded individual. Holden's quiet self-assurance and kindness reflect Kyle's potential, according to Claire. However, the fact that Holden has entered her life also demonstrates how fragile her emotional boundaries are. Nevertheless, unlike the title suggests, Claire's path has nothing to do with selecting a man. It's about taking back control. Her emotional development began when she realized that love should be one of mutual respect and growth, not surveillance or redemption. Claire is forced to face the truth when Kyle shows up unannounced in Los Angeles. If she doesn't draw clear lines now, she will always live by the emotional tides of powerful men. Risk by Holden Novak, a man haunted by his past. It was careless of Holden to take Claire to the bar where he once dated Zuleika Silva's Audra Charles. It's more than just a simple oversight, it's a moment of significance. His unresolved feelings are reflected in the setting, which is stained by past ghosts. Holden invited the past to sit at the table between him and Claire, whether he meant to or not. Tamara Braun plays Sienna Bacall, a woman who has her own complicated connections to Holden and Audra. Her abrupt approach and sarcastic comments reopen old wounds. Insinuations made by Sienna about Audra, or Audrey, she makes fun of Holden, show how vulnerable he is. He is trying to become a better man by reinventing himself, but Sienna's words remind him that his history cannot be changed easily. Claire represents a new beginning for Holden. She is pure and forgiving in every way, and she listens without judging. He doesn't know, though, that she is her own person with equally deep wounds and is not his story of redemption. By projecting perfection onto her, he will only succeed in erasing his past. Holden changes his demeanor when Sienna leaves. We are able to see the man behind the charm as the mask falls off, a person who is desperate to be regarded as the good guy. However, in the manner of a soap opera, the more he tries to establish his worth, the more his unresolved issues will jeopardize his relationship with Claire. He is still unaware of Claire's preference for honesty over polish. And that truth may soon put their fragile trust to the test. The emotional awakening of Claire observes the pattern in that bar as she sits across from Holden. She begins to see the conversation with Sienna, Holden's response, and Kyle's unwanted visit as pieces of a puzzle forming a bigger picture in her mind. She realizes that every relationship she has ever had, whether romantic or family, has been about the redemption stories of other people. Through Claire's forgiveness, her mother wanted to turn things around for herself. By saving her, Kyle wanted to fix what he had broken. Now, Holden wants to rebrand himself by winning her trust. The episode captures Claire's dawning realization through subtle gestures, such as her jaw tightening, the distance in her eyes as Holden talks about moving forward, and her tone of quiet resignation when she tells him, "Maybe I just need to be alone for a while." It is liberation, not rejection. The Young and the Restless excels in this area by incorporating emotional nuance into everyday conversation. Emotional self-sufficiency, not romantic payoff, is the focus of Claire's journey. Her first real act of power comes from her decision to leave, even for a short period of time. The woman who refuses to stay down is Audra Charles. Zuleika Silva's Audra Charles is one of Genoa City's most divisive characters because, beneath her armor, she is ambitious, seductive, and emotionally raw. This week, her storyline reveals a deeper truth. She is not only manipulative but also heartbroken. One of the show's most volatile pairings is still her relationship with Kyle Abbott, Michael Miller. Their chemistry is explosive due to its foundation of ego and mutual destruction. Control, validation, and excitement are what they both want, and they found an intoxicating reflection of those needs in each other. Audra, on the other hand, lost her composure when Kyle turned to Claire. She believed she finally mattered to someone powerful, someone who saw her as more than just a pawn, and she felt betrayed not because of lost love. Her old insecurities, the same ones that had previously led her to make risky alliances, returned after Kyle was fired. It is both harrowing and empowering for Audra to make the choice to go it alone right now. She is no longer the rebound or vengeance fling. However, in true Y&R fashion, independence does not necessarily imply detachment. Like smoke, her feelings for Kyle remain unresolved. She will come back closer the more she denies them, particularly when Kyle himself begins to spiral. Dissent by Kyle Abbott. When love turns obsessive man at war with himself, Kyle Abbott. Although he appears to be the polished CEO and charming Abbott heir, he hides a deep-seated sense of insecurity that dates back to his failed marriage to Summer Newman, Allison Lanny. Kyle filled the void left by Summer's departure with a series of rebound relationships and emotional shortcuts rather than healing. His initial involvement with Claire was an attempt to regain a sense of need. The part of Kyle that wanted to be better and be seen as more than just a playboy executive liked Claire's quiet strength and empathy. He panicked, however, when she began to assert independence. Rather than reflect, his instinct was to chase. It was not an act of love to fly to Los Angeles to monitor Claire. Rather, it was control disguised as concern. It is a well-known characteristic of Abbott that was passed down through generations of men who equated love with possession. Jack's earlier years, when he too would cross emotional lines in the name of affection, are mirrored by Kyle's inability to let go. But the irony is that Kyle's attempt to get Claire back only makes her further away and brings him back into Audra's orbit immediately. We see him torn between guilt and desire throughout the episode. He is enticed once more by the same fire that once consumed him, promising both chaos and familiarity. Kyle and Audra. A dangerous reunion. When Kyle eventually returns to Genoa City, Audra and he immediately experience a resurgence of tension. Their scenes together, full of sarcastic remarks, unspoken longing, and emotional manipulation, exude the Y&R energy. Audra's independence has increased her attractiveness even further. She now commands Kyle's attention rather than begs for it. He is disturbed by her power shift. She says, "You only chase what you think you can fix, Kyle," during one heated exchange at the Abbott offices. "What happens if you are unable to fix me?" As a reminder that Audra sees right through him, the line cuts deep. However, the recurrence of patterns that Kyle refuses to confront is what ultimately leads to his downfall, not a single bad decision. His attraction to Audra is undeniable, and despite the fact that everyone around him, including Jack, Diane, and even Mariah, advises him not to rekindle that flame, he seems to be drawn to it like a moth to a flame. Their rekindled relationship is not romantic. Rather, it is addiction. Two broken people find solace in the chaos they share. However, viewers are unable to look away. Due to the fact that the relationships depicted in soap operas frequently have the greatest potential for attraction. The future of Claire. The birth of a Newman Claire begins the next chapter as Kyle spirals back toward Audra. She appears to be portrayed by the writers as an independent participant in the Newman legacy rather than as someone's love interest. She is perfectly suited to take charge of upcoming storylines due to her strength, intelligence, and emotional maturity. She might even take on a leadership or business role at Newman Media or Chancellor Winters. The fact that Claire no longer relies on anyone else's approval is what makes her so compelling. Her rebirth is her heartbreak. She is the new generation's link between power and redemption, demonstrating that not every Newman must follow the same destructive routines. She will continue to be challenged by Holden's presence. Claire will be forced to make decisions that will define her identity as a result of the convergence of his secrets, the persistent threats from Sienna, and Kyle's renewed involvement with Audra. A side of Claire that rivals her Aunt Victoria, strong, determined, and unwilling to be underestimated, may emerge by the conclusion of the following arc. The unlearned lessons from Kyle's reckoning. In addition to alienating Claire, Kyle's breakup with his family will be caused by his inevitable return to old habits. Peter Bergman's Jack Abbott has always served as both a role model and a mirror for his son. He will feel very badly as he watches Kyle repeat his errors. Naturally, Diane, Susan Walters, will step in to defend Kyle's actions under the guise of love, which will intensify tensions within the Abbott family. This emotional collapse is required. Kyle has relied too much on charm. Whether it is through a rekindled affair with Audra, missteps in business, or personal betrayal, his fall will open the door to genuine growth. The question is whether or not he will be able to tell the difference between control and love before it's too late. Love, power, and redemption constitute the emotional core. Thematic layering is what gives this storyline its richness. It's more than just a love triangle, it's a study of how people use love to heal or manipulate one another. After a lifetime of being judged, Claire seeks love as proof of her worth. Kyle controls himself through love because he prefers solitude to heartbreak. Audra sees love as a battleground that she must win before it wins over her. Holden views love as a means of retribution and self-correction. They all want to be whole, but none of them realize that wholeness can only be found in another person. Each of their arcs forces the other to confront truths they've long ignored, not by accident but intentionally. The best soap, where emotional chaos meets human truth. Relationships with multiple dimensions have always been the lifeblood of the young and the restless. The quadrangle of Claire, Kyle, Audra, and Holden embodies everything that fans seek: passion, jealousy, introspection, and the illusion of control. However, beneath the surface drama is a profoundly human message that healing necessitates solitude rather than substitution. Not only is Claire's decision to leave a plot twist, but it also represents character development. There is no villainy in Kyle's relapse into self-destructive behavior. Rather, there is vulnerability. Additionally, Audra's vengeance is disguised heartbreak rather than malice. The writers remind us that the young and the restless love stories are not about perfection. Rather, they are about imperfection, survival, and the never-ending search for balance in a world built on secrets. By weaving these emotional threads together, the peace before the next storm. In conclusion, towards the end of the episode, viewers are presented with a startling juxtaposition. The city lights below Claire can be seen glimmering like possibilities as she stands on a Los Angeles balcony. In the meantime, Kyle is sitting in a dimly lit Genoa city bar with his phone open and a photo of Claire in his eyes. Additionally, a short time later, Audra enters the same bar wearing a powerful red outfit. The next chapter begins when their eyes meet in that single, still moment. These cyclical heartbreaks, instances in which endings are merely disguised beginnings, are what make the young and the restless so successful. While Kyle's relapse indicates another fall, Claire's independence signifies a rebirth. Audra uses her power as a weapon, and Holden uses his guilt as his downfall.